Hi, and welcome to the Women Birth Collective's Pregnancy and Postpartum Summit. I'm your host, Melissa Chinkasey. Today, we're talking with Sylvia Lyle, who is a woman, a mother of two boys. She's a holistic doula. She's a Kundalini practitioner, a prenatal and postnatal yoga teacher and practitioner, and she offers sacred ceremonies honoring the rite of passage of life. And she is the creative weaver and founder of Mama Ritual. So thank you for being here today, Sylvia. I'd love to start by asking you a little bit about your story, where you're from, and how your culture and your family traditions and your life experience, how did it shape where you are today?
Thank you, Melissa, for the invitation. It's an honor to be here. Well, my name is Sylvia Lyle. I was born in Mexico, and I lived in Mexico for until I was around 70 years old. And I come from a family of a lot of women. My mother, who passed away in 2009, was my first country and my mentor, I will say. She was very connected to the feminine nature, I will say. And she had that because her mother and her grandmother passed through her a lot of information and you know, my great grandmother was a birth worker, and I found out about that when I started my own journey. You know, that it's important to know and investigate what happened with your ancestors when a lot of stories came up, and she was the right hand of the doctor in the hometown. This is my great grandmother. And then mi abuela, my grandmother, learned a lot from her. She gave birth her four daughters in her home. And so I grew up with a mother that understood that birth was a natural and physiological, beautiful process, and she trusted that. And I witnessed that. You know, she wanted to breastfeed her children, and I don't know if it was her generation or not. I really don't know that, but I feel that that was very strong in her heart. So when the time came to me to become a mother, I had that guidance and that reference. And when I was pregnant with my first son, his name is Tiago, I was doing a Kundalini teacher training, and that information also resonated a lot with the way I wanted to give birth to my kids, the way I wanted to support other women. So in Mexican culture, there are a lot of traditions that honor the mother and honor all the rituals and the processes that we go through. So it's just in our, I will say, daily life, the mother preparing a cacao or chocolate so you can have this warm drink so you can heal or feel better. You know, it's like in a daily life, you receive a lot of information, I guess.
Oh, beautiful. Can you share a little bit about those different practices and customs? The cacao, is that during pregnancy or is that specifically for a certain time? Are there other daily practices or times where, you know, you honor the pregnancy and the birth in your tradition?
Well, my journey started in this intention of supporting mothers into this beautiful and radical and amazing initiation that is giving birth. When my mom passed away, as I said, because I was able to hold space for her in that process. And at that moment, I understood how important was to be able to hold space for transitioning worlds. And I had support. I will say I had doula support for that rite of passage in our life. And then that's how I was initiated in this intention of supporting woman, not in that phase, I will say, not for in death, but in birth. And so I started um, learning and getting very curious about how to support, how could I be there in the different stages. And I will say that my, you're here doing this work, but everything that you walk along the way, it's in your backpack, in your bones, in your skin. And for me, for example, movement and breath are key in my practice, in the way that I offer and serve mothers, because I danced my whole life since I was little. And then, all this understanding of the body were something very important for me in my practice. So then I incorporated that with prenatal yoga and postnatal yoga and dance and intuitive movement. And so in my doula practice, I felt that understanding the way the body moves and the way we channel and embody and move the energy was very important for me, to be able to go into our hearts, to take the journey from our head to our heart, and then really to flow in that space. And then obviously I wanted to learn from Mexican traditional midwives and doulas, and I went to Mexico back and forth to study with different amazing women there, to be able to incorporate the different worlds, and during my practice. So I will say that since the intention of conception, there is space for ritual, and that's how I started working with some mamas. Then during pregnancy, bringing the information for them to take intuitively decisions, and then working with them not only in their head but in their heart, in their body, through movement and sessions and dance and ceremonies and rituals. I feel that the ritual is key in the work that I offer, because this connects us with our being, with our hands. The hands are a reflection of our hearts, with our breath, and then we can create this beauty and we can create this space in life with alliance with the elements, but we can create this inside of us to create a space for what is coming and what we're creating, the life that we're creating inside. And then holding space in the birth. And then for postpartum, although I'm not specifically a postpartum doula, because I have little kids, and I feel that that it's a different type of offering, I am very close to the mothers, and we prepare the pillars for the postpartum during pregnancy, and obviously making sure that they are held, that they have the support system, and obviously to offering a ceremony for the postpartum phase, which is very important to honor what the mother went through. So as you say, it's like kind of like a journey, that I meet the mother and or the family in whatever they are at, and then we can create what they need.
Mm, yeah. I want to just like reiterate some of the things that you said because there's so many and they're so beautiful. One thing that you mentioned was coming from your head to your heart. And I love that you have a direct path, a practical path to where you want to guide people to sit when they're in their embodiment and when they're, tapping into their intuition. I love the word embodiment. You use that for dancing and embodying. And I think it's so beautiful because during pregnancy, you actually embody another life too. And it would be interesting to hear if that shifted your relationship to movement, since you have such a deep relationship to movement in your body, if pregnancy shifted that. I also just want to thank you for bridging the worlds. You said you would go back to Mexico and learn and come back and work with your families here. So I got goosebumps when you said that because I think it's so beautiful that we are doing, you're doing this work and there's so many other people doing that too, going back to our traditions and bringing them into the present. So just wanted to thank you for that. So, oh, and the other thing was the postpartum. You mentioned that you prepare people for postpartum and that you aren't a postpartum doula, but you help them to find a support network, a support team, put things in place that they need. And I think that's a really good message is that one person cannot do it all and one support person cannot do it all. So like one birthing person, it's it's good to remember that we're not meant to do it all. I think we're taught to do everything on our own, but we're not meant to. So even if you go out and you find a support person that you really love, that support person is also not meant to do it all. We're designed to really create a network of people around us who can we can all lean on each other, and that in pregnancy it's okay to just you taught me this, you did my closing. It's okay to just receive. You don't have to always be giving this like equal exchange of giving and receiving. And I think a lot of, especially women in general, are nurturers, so we're used to giving and giving and giving. And during my closing you were like, just receive. It's a gift for everyone if you just receive. So
Mm.
yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Everything that a baby needs, a mother needs it too.
Hmm.
So I learned in the process of supporting mamas, as you said, how to understand where my work it's more how could I say where it's better for me to hold space and where I can provide other information so we can create that support system as you mentioned, and always understanding that there are incredible people, and the first thing that we need to learn is to change our beliefs as mother, as woman, that we deserve to receive and we deserve this time of warm food, resting, and really allowing the world to hold us. But this is something that we need to relearn, or yes, to remember how it used to be in the past, how our mothers and grandmothers used to take care of us. So what is the relationship in giving and receiving? And this is something not only for the postpartum, but in life in general. So really motherhood is this initiation that brings us into this path of flexibility and patience and flow, and I would say, the path that take us longer in life is the path from the head to our heart. And in 9 months, for me, the intention here is to have the consciousness of the miracle of life that is happening to hearts, to souls inside of you, but also that you are this channel from heaven to earth, and how we can create space for that miracle to happen. And if we are only in our heads reading books and not going into our body, into our breath, into our hands, how can we start creating beauty with our hands? How can we, as I was mentioning to you, sometimes when I'm working with mamas, we just use our hands like this, for example, so they can really connect with the magical hands, and then that creation that is happening inside, you can feel it and manifest in the outside. So this is a honey that I made with them, and they made it with organic roses and lavender and honey, and they use it during their whole pregnancy. We put them in the altar, so they create an altar. So they have space to go there, to write, to start connecting with the magic of ritual, which is small things in presence. Just 5 minutes of breath, putting the hands under their belly, using a notebook, writing what they're feeling, what they're going through, playing a music, like small little details that brings you back into your heart, into the awareness of what you're going through. Because the pregnancy start changing from the first trimester to the second trimester to the third trimester, which is la dulce espera that we talk about. This it's like this rite of passage where you're about to give birth and you're letting many things go, and that's very powerful and strong. So elements like this honey, you take this little taste of honey every day in the morning. You awaken your senses, your presence, you bring the sweetness. Behind the honey, there's so many stories about what the bees do in life with their sacred geometry when they're making the alchemia. That's what we do. So this is like to remember. How can we remember to make this journey sacred and beautiful? And I'm not saying this, I'm not saying that it's color pink, everything that we go through pregnancy and birth. Of course, it's not like that. But how can we flow into this process of creation with humbleness and ritual and ceremony that connects the two worlds. It says that they say that mothers, when they start labor, they have to go to the stars to bring the soul of their baby with them so they can come to this world together. It's a journey. So how can we do and honor this journey?
Yes. So the altar, would you say the altar is a space that you go to, a physical space, so that you can go within yourself? Is that the purpose of the altar?
Yeah, the altar is a space, a live space. Our voice is a live voice when it comes from our heart. So our live altar, it's a place, a refuge to go there, to go inside. You are the altar. Everything is within us. But the altar can come into this space to allow us to remember to come back into our hearts. So the expression of the altar is the expression of our heart. And it could be as simple as a candle, flowers, your journal, your honey, whatever that connects you with you and with your baby. You are journeying together. So yes, it's just a reflection, but we are the altar. And I always recommend mamas to have an altar, to have a space, because we are processing a lot when we're pregnant. A lot of things come up from our childhood. How can we come back to the center? How can we rest in our hearts? It's just that, just sigh. How can I sigh and surrender? So if I believe in the magic of beauty. I feel that having beauty around you, to be able with your eyes to touch the beauty, and we deserve the beauty. We forget about how important it is to have beauty. Nature it's the best reference, to just having some flowers and feeling that energy and creating that alliance. I had a mama that gave birth a month ago, more or less, and she had a beautiful garden and she was having a home birth. And I went to the visit in their house, I saw these 4 trees outside on the garden. And I just felt the protection of the trees. It was very strong. And I talked to her about how protected they were and how important was to create this alliance and introduce themselves with these trees and putting an offering into the trees. And at the end, she gave birth in that space. That's where she felt held, you know, and she did what she needed to do to call upon that energy. So it's as simple as that, you know, as I am Sylvia and I'm here and I'm grateful for your presence here. And that's it, you know, it's just acknowledging, because we say hi to all of us, like, hi, Melissa, hi, my husband, hi, but we don't say hi to our trees, our plants, you know, that are, well, you do, because you are a magician with, and you understand and you speak to them and you know, but it's not what we are taught to do. We just have to remember.
Yeah. Yeah, the second time during this conversation with you, I'm remembering um there's the Bear Clan mother, and I can't remember the name of her tribe, but she's an Iroquois member. She's the Bear Clan mother. Her name is Louise McDonald Dern, and Guji Cook, who's a midwife from the same area, not the same clan, but the same area or tribe, I guess. They told me that in order to heal someone who has had loss and miscarriage and fertility issues, the power of four people holding
Mm.
space. You need four people in each direction on each corner of the woman, and she stands in the middle. And it's reminding me with the trees again, that power of four, and that they are living beings, just as, you know, the women that you would put around you if you're healing are living beings. And we had four at my closing, which is just beautiful too. So there's the four, and then the fifth one is the one being healed in the center. But um, the thing is the other women around don't have to do anything. It's just by being in four, there's something about the energy that the healing will happen automatically. And I remember at my closing, I received so much, but when I looked out to the other people around me, you know, you were there, my midwife was there, and I could see that the healing wasn't just for me. It was happening to everyone. It was like this energetic container that just happened. So yeah, it's the second time I thought of that. I just wanted to mention
Mm.
it.
And it's beautiful to share that, because many people do not know what the ceremony for postpartum is. I had the honor to guide or to hold space for your postpartum ceremony with such an amazing group of women, and your midwife was there, and it was so this amazing, beautiful midwife, Sheila. Oh my God. And I love to talk about this ceremony, because it's not that we're closing postpartum, because postpartum doesn't end in the 40-day or in the 3 months or in 6 months. It says that postpartum is lasts for 2 years. I will say a lifetime, but you know, but this Mexican tradition, and in many different countries or cultures, they have their own understanding of the ceremony, which I feel that is incredible how these cultures knew that honoring that was so important. And in life, every rite of passage, it's so important to honor. A rite of passage is when you are transitioning from one level of maturity to another, when you are going through a phase and something is changing and transforming, and you are feeling uncomfortable, you are going through something very strong. And in that rite of passage, the most beautiful thing is to call community, to hold space for you, so you can cross that bridge, health. And obviously, the postpartum is a huge rite of passage for women. So we usually do it at the 40th day, but it doesn't matter. my prayer is that every woman in this world could receive that. Some of the mamas um, have asked me to do it, and they already had 3 kids, and we do it, and we're closing like the all the births and the process. So giving birth, it's and being pregnant is an expansion of your aura in a way that you've never experienced that before. And giving birth, it's fully expansion and an opening not only of your physical body, and for that we're not saying if you had C-section or natural birth. It's just giving birth to a human being. You know, it's expansion of your body, your soul, your mind, all your bodies. And as we said, you know, mother is in a way reborn. And so in the ceremony, with the help of Mother Earth and all these elements, beautiful support of the elements, because we don't do anything by ourselves. We call up the guides and the guardians of that mother, of that house, that space. And we go through different beautiful rituals of loving touch, of with using herbs, using the water, using the honey, using the rebosos, which are these beautiful, how do you say, telas? How do you say that?
A
Uh,
cloth?
yeah, cloth. And we use a lot a lot of rebozo so we can help the mother to come back into her heart, kind of like to close the bones and bring her into this warm um, space and safe space. And we pray and acknowledge everything that happened and everything that she did. And it's just an incredible process of um, of love and surrender, and obviously connecting to the birth story and using the voice and the heart. And I remember how beautiful was your ceremony, because you had your baby with you. That was so beautiful. He was part of it. So yeah.
He loved it. He loved it. He was so calm through it all. So when I was about to give birth to him, he was breech up until my 39th week. And we didn't know if he had, his butt down or if he had a foot down, or, there's different scenarios that a breech baby can be born. A butt down is a lot smoother than having a foot down. And so there was a moment that I was thinking, okay, I may have to go to the hospital. And that wasn't my plan. It was home birth. And I may have to birth through cesarean. And you spoke about this energy, and opening and expansiveness in birth. And I would go into, what if I have to cesarean birth? And to me, I had had 2 babies before. And even before I had the babies, I would kind of open up my energy field and allow this feeling of flowing through my vagina, which is where the baby's born from. And I would practice opening that channel so that when birth came, it wouldn't be unfamiliar to me, right? So when I was thinking about having a cesarean birth, I was thinking, how do I move that energy that I know how to, move a baby through my birth canal, but now the birth canal would be in my abdomen. So how can I channel the energy through my abdomen so that the birth is still connected? Um, and I would practice, and I had some fear around it, but with my practice and with just coming to terms with the fact that, okay, babies can be born through different ways, and it doesn't have to shift the experience, or the at least the love and the energetic expansiveness, right?
Mm.
So I think it's so beautiful what you embody, because you embody natural birth, you embody ritual, you embody the connection and the sweetness of life and the elements and nature. And yet your births were not simple. They were, um, the one that I witnessed was a really challenging birth. And I would say, from where I sit, I would call it very physically demanding, very physically difficult. But also there was a lot of emotional processing that I think that you were going through at the time.
Mm.
So can you share how you found the sweetness, the la dulce in
Mm.
through your experiences? Because you've never lost that or let that go, or didn't have time to find it, and yet your birth journey brought you to unexpected places. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I had the honor to have Melissa with me and my midwife Dana. Both of them were my midwife is with my second son Liam. Um, yes, as we said, birth is a mystery, and I understood that with my own experience. When I gave birth to Tiago, my first son, I never imagined, it was my first experience. And I've never imagined that it was going to be so challenging. And I ended up having a C-section with him. And the process was very strong because I didn't consider that possibility. It was there, but I didn't consider that it could happen. Well, I had the honor to have Melissa with me in the birth of my second child. My midwife Dana Gordon was with us as well, and I had this beautiful group of women with me and my husband. It was unbelievable. I dream about this. It was like a dream team for me, and so we labored in our house for a long period of time, and um, as you said, things were not flowing, and I just felt it. I've been supporting mothers in so many births that I knew that something was not flowing. And there was a moment where I knew that we needed to transition from my house to the hospital. And it was I just felt that I surrendered myself in this birth a lot, because I had a previous experience with my first born, Tiago. He's 9.5 now, and Liam is 3. So when Tiago, my first son, was born, I had a C-section. I had a long labor as well. I had another team with me, but it didn't flow as well, and we had to move to the hospital, and I had a C-section. And as a first time mother, it was shocking for me. I had to really process, because I at that time I was studying with a beautiful teacher of mine. She lived in Mexico, and I studied this like a long year doula certification. I was like all immersed in this world. It was a very deep, uh, yeah, training. And so in my vision, I didn't think that that was going to be a possibility to end up in a C-section, even though I knew I was learning a lot. I never thought that I was going to go through that. So a lot of healing had to happen for me. And the work that I did with families and mother opened up my heart and healed me a lot, because I understood that there's not one way or another. I understood that birth is so amazingly mysterious that I learned how to show up with an open heart, and not with an agenda or saying this has to be this way. Like the way I was able to support family was so much different, because I had this wide vision of possibilities in my heart, in my soul. So when I um, when I was ready to receive Liam, it was amazing how I understood that I couldn't go against anything that I couldn't control, that I had to surrender, and that we needed to change setting. But the sacred space now was going to be the hospital, and we were going to include more people into our dream team. So for me, the sweet word and talking to the people that we were going to now connect, and we needed to share what for us was our vision to receive our baby, and how we needed them to hold space for us was so important. And we had two doctors, the OB and the neonatologist, and we were able to share with them, and we want them to know us, so they could hold space. And it was amazing how the two worlds got involved and danced together. So at the end, I had a C-section with Liam as well. And this is incredible, really, because in the process of these years, and the percentage of transfers from home to houses, it's not a lot, but one of them was my process. And so I feel that Liam's birth healed what still needed to heal from Tiago's birth, but feeling supported in the new setting with the doctors, and this, I felt like it was a healthy energy from the masculine that was receiving us there. And I was able to hold Liam in my chest when he was born. They allowed us to to have a respectful birth, even though it was not a vaginal natural birth. So I think that was so important as well for us. I was able to hold my baby, for a long period of time, and they were patient, and I felt heard, and I felt that I was the person there that they were listening to. I felt that I was the main character of the whole situation. And I think that's key. It's not that I didn't feel that with my first one, but it was so shocking. I had the blessing to have a beautiful doctor as well that try, and we did a lot of things, but it wasn't flowing. So for the sweetness that you mentioned, I feel that having the right people with you is key. Feeling the support is so important. So having the information, having and taking good decisions, and knowing what is the energy that I feel with my doctor, with my midwife, with the team, like really going inside and feeling what is that I feel here, and if I feel supported and heard. I think that's key. And I will always feel so privileged to witness when babies are born through the vaginal canal. Every time that I'm able to see that, I feel that in a way it heals me too. I feel the hope. I trust the body. I trust the wisdom of women. I trust birth, even though my process was not the one that I wanted to. I feel that they were sacred as well. Now that I see and I feel all the medicine that brought to me, to our family, to our team. And it is a process. I'm not saying that it's easy, but just surrendering and coming into the heart for me was so important. With Liam's birth, I just embraced it. That's how I feel that. And we all did, we had the grief when we had to transfer. You remember that, we've been together in many births, and how come we're not having this experience, us together. So we had to let go of that, but then we moved and we danced with what was there. And that was 3 years ago. You came with your beautiful baby. Remember?
I know. He was so sweet at that birth. He was so sweet. Just he could feel all the love in the air, in the room, in the home. He just felt so comfortable and so at home.
Yeah, such a
Yeah.
beautiful memory. So yeah, we can control birth. We can be there, hold space, and still all the things that we talked about, moving through. I feel that it's so important to acknowledge this time of la dulce espera, the 4 weeks before giving birth, because mamas are, thinking in so many details and getting everything ready, and sometimes there is a lot of disconnection in that time, expectation, a lot of anxiety of the collective and the family, and so many things that are happening, and it's the pre-phase of giving birth. So for me, one of the most offerings that I love to give is these sessions with mamas individually or in group, but where we can embrace and go into our heart, into our breath, into that letting go, into the ritual, into everything that we need to gather, so we can really go into the process of birth with our nervous system more relaxed. Like that phase is so important. And sometimes the energy is lost in giving updates to people and family. And how can we wait patiently for the baby to come when it's ready? How can we make space for the baby and for us into this transition? And I think that sets a very good base so we can get into labor in a more relaxed, connected way. And I'm not saying this that we do this to be able to have a vaginal birth. The intention for me is, how can you be more present? How can you be more calm? How can you lower the anxiety of yourself and relax your nervous system, so you can really go into the process in a more peaceful and surrender way? But that phase, I think, is forgotten. We just try to jump from the labor and the giving birth. But what happened in these last weeks, where maybe you're turning 40 weeks and nothing's happening, and how can we hold space for that? I love that dance. Those are the times that I'm now enjoying a lot, creating practices for that period of time.
It's such a beautiful period of time too, because it's so short. You only get to be pregnant for the last 4 weeks or the last 3 weeks or the last, it can be so physically difficult, challenging, but there's also so many beautiful things happening, and it's going to be over soon. So to really honor that, it's such a great practice.
Yeah.
And
To create boundaries. Boundaries are so important, to protect your energy. You're like in this journey, as we said, in between worlds, and it could be longer than 4 weeks. Depends on each mama. It could start like feeling, and a lot of things coming up in the 30th week, 31st. How can we start preparing? How can we start acknowledging what we're going through and listening? And I feel this, how can we, what practices allow us to create a space for what's coming, right? And instead of feeling full of so many things that are not serving us. So there are many tools that we can do. And because if we expect the mother to work until, for example, the 39 week, and then we tell her, okay, just relax, let go. How can we expect the nervous system and our bodies to really, okay, I'm in labor, which it has cortisol and natural stress. How are we going to be like this channel if we don't practice and come into our body? Like, this simple practice, just put music and just move the way it feels good. So when you're in labor, for example, you know what feels okay here. Okay, if I do this is this connection. And not only for labor, for life, right now I feel a pain in my lower back. Okay, what can I do? What can I do myself? How can I bring that breath to that part? You know, how can we do that ourselves to connect? And it's connection, right? Connection. So labor is connection, and then the prize and the gift is your baby in your chest, and that's it. That's and then they take it away from us. So no, after all that work that both of you did together, no, it's just doesn't make sense. That's when we're disconnected from our intuition and our instinct. We allow that to happen. But if we're connected, we wouldn't allow nobody to take our
Mm,
child from us ever.
mm.
And it's all about connection and remembering and having your voice and knowing what is right, how that feels right. This is what feels right here in my chest, here.
Yeah.
Mm.
I want to go back for just a minute to when you were talking about surrender and your moment of surrender in having a cesarean birth. I think that it's a good message to for people who are having cesarean birth, not just ones who aren't planning it, but even ones who plan it, is the ritual, the connection, the respect that you were talking about. Because sometimes I always want to offer, hey, you want to have a visit with me? And sometimes I hear, no, I'm having a cesarean birth or a cesarean section. I have a planned C-section. And I'm like, well, you're still gonna have the support and the richness, and you still deserve that, and you still deserve community, and you deserve to feel and receive what, people who aren't planning cesarean birth, that whole process, right? And so I wanna take that word surrender, because surrender can mean different things to different people. And surrender can mean, okay, I give up, I'm going to allow them, or I give up, I'm going to allow this. And I think for you, watching you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think watching you, there was one point where you were on your knees laying on a ball, and I just could sense that there was a lot of energy just falling down to the ground, a lot, and it was just falling and it took so long. There was so much energy that had to kind of discharge, whether it was emotional stuff that you were thinking, I don't know, I could just see from my seat in the room. It took so long. And I want to just give that background to the word surrender, right? Like surrender doesn't have to mean like I give up, I give in, go ahead. Surrender can mean I'm allowing my process, right? And so, like, even if I'm going to sit here on the floor or in this space for an hour, I'm not going to stop the flow of what I'm feeling, right? I'm not going to hold on to this for an hour. I'm going to surrender to the flow. And if it takes an hour to flow, okay. If it takes 2 hours to flow. And then you mentioned the grief and the actual moment where we were walking out, and the grief. And so that was a whole different flavor, but it was still surrendering to the grief, right? Because, it would have been a different experience, I think, if the grief wasn't allowed, right? If there
Yeah.
wasn't a surrender, if it was held in and buried and you know uh it's tucked away somewhere in your body, right? So I just wanted to, yeah, kind of frame that. What does surrender mean? Because it can mean so many different things, but I think this surrender is about allowing yourself to have the process
Yeah.
and
Well, you
move
said
like you
it
keep
beautiful.
talking about.
You said it beautiful. We were able to go through all the phases. We were here for many hours, like the night, the day, when the comes when the sun's coming up, and we've been working and going through the process the whole night. I mean, it was a lot. And then the whole day together, and trying and moving and dancing with all the emotions. And obviously, we had to go through what's going on, and the sadness, and all allowing all of it to feel. We felt everything, each one of us. um, and but there was a moment where words were not even needed. The body spoke. I felt it, and it was so beautiful because you knew and I knew, but you guys waited for me to say it because it was here in the space, and I said, okay, I'm ready. And you know that during birth there's moments where mommies will say, I can do this, let's go to the hospital, the peace world, whatever, right? If we're talking a home birth. And you know when that phase is going to pass and we need to cross that, and it's a phase, it's a moment. But in my case, you knew that that was what we needed to do. So I just pray, I just pray for us to be received with loving hands as well over there, and that happened, and our energy also was transforming this space. All of us, all of us, just we were transmitting this energy to the people there. Just is the energy of love, and with this. But it is because we allowed ourselves to go in through the process. I know that many people have go through C-sections that are very strong and hard and in different scenarios than the one that I'm describing. And that requires also a process of a lot of healing. When you mention a mother that comes to me, for example, in the prenatal yoga classes that I teach, and they share at the end of the class, I'm having a home birth or a hospital birth. And when the mama shares that she wants to do a C-section because she wants to plan a C-section, there's a way in a moment where the information, it's important. Once they receive the information and they connect, I feel that most of the times they open up to the possibility of their own nature. What is lacking a lot of times is the right information and the possibilities that they have. Once they know and they receive that, something opens up. And if they still decide to go to that with that route, but they have the information. But when they have the information, it is hard. Usually they don't go to that route. I'm saying something that is not necessary. I'm saying a C-section just planned because of whatever, because of they just feel that that's the way. Thank God for medicine. Thank God for everything that exists. I feel super grateful, but we need to understand where to use it and when it's important to utilize and not intervene in this beautiful process, right? So information is key so they can understand and take good decisions, but also the work with the heart and with the soul and the intuition and the feminine nature is so important.
So we've discussed just a little bit about the postpartum closing ceremony, and we've discussed a little bit about la dulce espera, the sweet waiting before the birth. We've talked about ritual. Um, do you have like a tradition of the mother blessing, or what people would call the blessing way, or a ceremony to celebrate the mother that people are, doing more popularly these days?
Yeah. That offering, the ceremony of the mother's blessing, I call it in Spanish, ceremonia de maternidad. It's one of the most beautiful ceremonies that I love to facilitate, because there is so much purpose in that gathering, that where we create so many beautiful rituals for the mother. It's not a social gathering per se. It's more like a calling the community to sit together in circle, to create beauty, to support the mama, to bless the soul that is coming into her life, that is in her womb, that is blessing her family, but is also creating disagreement with the tribe, with her tribe, with the women or men that are close to her. So we all are understand the importance of being there for her, to treat her as the creator that she is, the goddess that she is, and to look at each other in our eyes and make sure that she feels and she can gather all the strength, the support, because that's, as we said, a very important rite of passage that she's going through from pregnancy to motherhood. And how do we support her? Through flowers, through beauty, to the sweet word, through blessings, through loving touch, through a beautiful but profound ceremony where she can express herself, she can surrender into the unknown, but she can be held for all of us, by all of us. And that's the sense, that's something that we want to continue, we want to continue cultivating until the postpartum. It's not a ceremony that ends there. It's something that starts there and that we continue holding until she is ready. And obviously, it's so important to raise our children in tribe, in community. I feel those threads are connected forever because that ceremony is very profound. So one of the project that I founded, it's called Mama Ritual. It's not that I am Mama Ritual, it's that I believe that we all are Mama Ritual. We have the blessing of when we're in presence, we create rituals. You create or you cook this beautiful, delicious soup, but you can create it as a ritual or not. It's your decision whether your presence is there or not. And we don't live in ritual and like ritualist all the time, but just being able to know that putting some intention in our hands, we can create so much magic and healing, not only to others, but to us. And we do it all the time with our kids. That's how I felt, My mom used to say, yeah, life is a ceremony and it's full of rituals. And your rituals are, cleaning, going to the bathroom, doing all these things, but how if you do it in a conscious way and in a loving way? And how many times do we put some oil into our kids when they're not feeling right, or making tea? That's a beautiful ritual and that's a healing ritual. And we're just how to remember to bring that into our daily fast active life, to slow down a little bit and enjoy that. So ceremonies for me right now are the foundation of Mama Ritual, and because in every aspect of the offerings that I'm doing with women or families, I think that's present, the beauty in ritual, so we can go into our hearts and connect. That's how I feel it, and we are all Mama Ritual. We have that in us.
So there's ritual, which happens in any moment, right? There's ceremony, which I think is bringing our consciousness and connecting it through ritual. And then there's the mother ceremony, which is about calling the community to hold this person as they go forward to give birth and beyond, and move forward through the parenthood phase. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What is your best advice for pregnancy, postpartum, or birth?
I will say to start having a daily practice that connects you to your heart, whatever that means for you, to create a space for you to meet with yourself, to be in silence, to cry, to put or create something beautiful there, so you can start getting more in touch with your feminine, with your sweetness, with your flow. I think that practice comes through that ritual that we can do and make, and cultivate a lot of things in us and help us to do this journey that I mentioned from the head to the heart. Because as Angelina Martinez, one of my beautiful mentors and teachers, said, women in little towns in Mexico, for example, give birth with their hearts. And that's why they give birth very easy and fast. But women in the city, sometimes they forget the heart and give birth, or try to give birth with their mind. And so I will say how to go and start having a practice, whatever that means, start connecting with what makes you feel safe and feel more intuitive.
Thank you for that. And what is something that they don't tell us about birth?
I think that information, and to be well informed, and to have the tools for you to take good decisions is so important, because nowadays we have forgotten so many beautiful, basic, intuitive things in the process. So they don't tell us that we have to be very aware of what's happening in the system. And that is our job, and it's our responsibility to really understand what happens physiologically in our body, what happens with the options that I'm taking. They don't tell us that the decisions that you make are also your responsibility, and you have the opportunity, because there's no going back. There's really no going back. So when you listen, and if you feel that something is okay, it's not okay, something that it feels off, you need to reconsider your decision. And there's no right or wrong, or there's no late time to make and change your decisions. You have to be in tune with what, and we're changing all the time. So they don't tell us that you really need to be really informed, and that you have to know. It's not fair for your baby and for your family, for yourself, to give all the responsibility to others, to the doctors, to the hospital, to the midwife. You have to own your birth. You need to understand what's happening, what are the protocols, what do you resonate with and what you don't resonate with. And in that sense, then you go to your practice, and in that space, you take decisions, feeling that connection. What resonates with me? What is it that I need? What I'm not feeling okay? What feels off? Where I'm not being listened? Who is not listening to me? What's happening here? So we need to take responsibility, and that is not said. We are taught to just obey and pay attention to what it says, and we don't question. So we need to question, because this is our process, and we are responsible for our babies. So it is very important to not go crazy, but to find the right tools, the right sources, and to have a good criteria to where look for information. I will say that having a doula is so important because if they are so resourceful and they can guide you, or having conversation with birth workers where you can understand what path and what options that you have.